Natural and man-made disasters can quickly disconnect us from the outside world. We lose internet, we lose cable, we lose power. Our standby radio, totally useless without power. Of course, an old-fashioned AM/FM transistor radio can come in handy until the batteries go out. Fortunately, there are other options for those who want to be prepared, like this dynamo and solar radio. It can run on sunlight, you can crank the handle to charge it, you could even put in batteries. But unfortunately, it's limited to just the AM and FM band. So in those situations where you need to hear about weather reports, you're relying on the local stations to deliver that information to you. Or you can opt for the Midland ER310 emergency crank radio. What makes this radio different from other emergency radios is it has 7 alert weather bands, a flashlight that can also signal SOS, an ultrasonic dog whistle, can be charged externally, it can charge other devices, and of course if you happen to have some AA batteries around, it'll run on those too. Let's take a look inside the box. This radio can come in handy during foul weather, flooding, disasters of all kinds. Inside the kit, you get a USB cable. This cable can be used to feed power from the unit to a device like a cell phone, or you can use it to charge the rechargeable lithium battery that's included with this. So you do have some flexibility in the resources that can be used. You have a solar panel on top that allows you to recharge the lithium ion battery, dog whistle flashlight button, LCD display panel. You can tune up or down. You have volume controls. You can listen to weather alerts, and you can switch the bands. Here's a look at the flashlight. Opposite of the flashlight, there's a gasket cover that gives you access to several ports. Hopefully you can see these. You have a headphone jack. You have a USB out that will provide power from the internal battery to a cell phone or some other device that you want to charge. Don't expect this device to fully charge that, though it will supply power to it. Then you have the small USB port, and that's used for charging the battery. And then on the far end, you have a switch. On the left side is lithium. If you flip it over to the right side, it's AA, so you can select which power source you want to run the radio with. On the back is the crank for charging the battery, and there's even a compartment here that opens up that allows you to use AA batteries to run the unit, and you can carry it with this handle. Telescoping antenna is included, and of course there are instructions on how to use it, and they even include a recommended list for emergency supplies so you can be even more prepared in case of a disaster. It may be a bit bigger than my less capable emergency radio. This is 8 by 3 by 2. This one's a lot slimmer, but a lot less capable. So all we do right now is find a power supply. This one from my old Samsung will work nicely. I plug in the supplied USB cable. I come to the end, lift the cover off, insert it to the input USB, and then plug this into a 120 outlet. As we plug in the unit, the clock comes on. We get a light indicating that the battery is charging, and we see a flashing little battery up here. It has 3 levels that will stop flashing once the battery is fully charged, and this is just a clock that you can set. On the back of the unit, you'll find a little red tab. Pull that out, That allows the battery to make contact with the electronics so it can be charged. And of course, the switch on the side needs to be set to lithium, not AA. You would think the tuners on these would be really good. We're listening to the AM band, and it's being picked up on this antenna, and it's quite staticky. It's I think the only thing that I can pick up the only thing I'm able to pick up on the AM band besides the attic fan that's running at the moment, if we switch over to FM, there are more choices.
That are standing there, right? Last time I was there.
So that's great, but no weather band. So you're just relying on the local stations to provide you with up-to-date news and weather information. Unfortunately, the tuners aren't as good as they could be on these units, which is a shame. The unit has fully charged, and that's indicated by the non-flashing battery indicator. We still have a solid red indicating that we have power still plugged into the unit, so we're gonna disconnect that. And now the radio is ready to function. If you'll be placing this radio in storage until you need it for an emergency, then there's no sense in setting the time. But if you plan to have it out and on display, then you might want to set the time. And that is simply done by holding down the WX alert, and then you get 24-hour display. And by using the tune up and down arrows, you can switch that to a 12-hour display. And then once you've made your selection, you hit WX alert. That'll take you into the hours. And now you can use your up and down arrows to dial in the hours. Then you press WX alert for the minutes. And then you get a BL, which is the backlight. So it's simply BL5, off, on, and 5, I believe, is the timeout function. So it will go out after 5 seconds, or you can leave the backlight permanently on. In our case, we'll just let it time out. Then you have FR, which is, do you want it to display the weather frequency, or would you rather display the channel number for the weather frequency? In our case, we know what the frequency is in our area, so we'll just leave it for that. But it doesn't matter. It just depends on what you want to see as the display. Then you hit alert, and you're back out to the time. I mentioned earlier the flashlight function. You press the button on top, and you get dim, bright. Then if you press it again, it starts sending out an SOS signal. So if you're out in the woods hiking somewhere and you're lost and you see a vehicle, you could signal, or an aircraft, you could signal them with this SOS signal. And press it again, it turns off. Now, if we do a long press, like about 2 seconds, and you release, nothing happens with the light, but there is an ultrasonic dog whistle, and you get a symbol of a dog, and of course you don't hear it because it's ultrasonic, only a dog can hear it. And you're saying, other than annoying your pets, what purpose does this serve? Well, again, you're out in the wilderness somewhere, and there's a rescue operation going on, and maybe your horse is screaming or you can't talk. This is a great way to signal the rescue dogs that might be involved of your presence. Yes, I agree. It's of limited use. And to turn that off, you just hold down the button, release, and the little dog goes away. One of the main things that sets emergency radio apart from other radios is the built-in dynamo that allows you to just hand crank and charge the battery. Of course, before we can do that, we have to make sure that our position switch is in the lithium position, because that way the dynamo is recharging the rechargeable battery. And we simply pull the lever out, and then you just crank. And you can crank clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter, unlike some other radios. The dynamo handle on the dynamo and solar radio is much smaller and louder. And you can only turn it in one direction. And while you're cranking, you'll notice two things. You'll get an LED red light indicating that there is a charge going to the battery. And then the battery indicator will give you the status of the battery. Now currently it's reading 3 because the battery is fully charged, but if it was at a lower level, you'd get that indication, and then you continue cranking until you charge the battery. Figure about 9 minutes of radio play per minute of cranking. And then when you're done, simply put the handle back in its storage, and it's out of the way, and you can enjoy the radio. To use the radio, you'll need to extend the antenna out regardless of the band, although you could collapse it for the FM band and possibly get a signal, but for best signal reception, you need to fully extend the antenna out. Of course, be careful because it's prone to getting broken if it's sticking out that way as opposed to being vertical. Then you hold down the band button, and that will take you to AM. If you hit it again, you'll go to the FM side, and if you press it one more time, that'll take you to the weather channel. There are a choice of 7 of them. One of them is bound to be in your area. And then if you press it again, you switch back out to AM until you do a long press. And that will turn off the radio. With the antenna collapse, we can still get FM, and I just wanted to demonstrate how loud this can get. Which is pretty good for a speaker that's only maybe 1.5 inches across. So impressive audio quality when there's a good signal coming into the unit. The problem with the unit is it's not all that sensitive. I mean, I don't live that far from the radio transmitters in this area, so I should be getting a lot of stations, especially on AM, and with this unit, I'm not. Just like the Midland, this radio receives AM and FM. You have to use the external antenna. Unlike the Midland, the antenna comes out of the top of the unit, so it does swivel left and right, does not swivel forward and back. That gives you a better chance of receiving a signal while keeping the radio upright. The reception's no better, really no worse than the other one. You just don't get a weather band, and of course you have to find your signal either on the AM or FM band. Dynamo is charging. Right now there are no batteries in it. It's just using either a built-in NiCad or a capacitor to hold a charge from the dynamo to run the unit. And then of course there's the solar panel on top, which when exposed to bright sunlight will operate the radio until you lose that light. Now the unit claims that it will charge a device, so I have a USB connector for this phone, and I'm going to plug it into the USB out, and then I'm going to plug this into my cell phone, and as you see, it's charging. Now, again, this doesn't have a lot of battery capability, so don't expect it to fully charge devices that exceed the capability of this battery. Of course, you could always use the dynamo and just keep on cranking until you fully charge your phone, but I expect that would take quite a long time. As we know, we can use AA batteries, and to gain access to that, we just move the handle up and out of the way, come to the battery compartment, press down, that lifts off the cover, and there you see the 2600 milliamp hour 3.7 volt battery. That is what's being charged by the solar panel or the dynamo. Then you have 3 slots for 3 AA batteries. So again, with the side switch, you can run off the AA batteries or the lithium. Don't attempt recharging your AA batteries with the dynamo or solar panel, as it will damage the unit. Now, this radio can receive weather alerts. And in order to do that, you just come over to WX Alert, press it once, and then you get a flashing WX, and that means that the receiver is now monitoring for any alerts. Should the NOAA issue an alert, there will be an alarm, a tone alarm, and you'll get that alert. Simply just hit any button to silence the alarm, and then you can listen to the message. If you're not around, then you'll get an indicator that a message was detected. And if you'd rather not receive the alerts, then just push the button again, and that turns off that capability. The advantage of the Midland ER310 over something like the dynamo and solar radio, its ability to receive NOAA weather. You have 7 channels, one of them is bound to be in your area. So you can get not only weather forecasts, but you can get storm and emergency alerts. It also has AM and FM, so you can pick up your local stations. It has the ability to function as a flashlight. It has solar charging capabilities. It has the ability to receive energy from an external source, from the AA batteries that you can add to it, the internal lithium-ion battery, or the dynamo charger. So it's quite versatile in that respect. Things that I find really annoying about this radio is the fact that the antenna only comes off the side. Of course, you could turn the radio this way, but then your controls are in the wrong orientation. This antenna just seems kind of prone to getting damaged, versus something like this that even when it's up and if it gets bounced, it could at least go left and right. The dog whistle, as I said, is not all that impressive to me. I see that as of limited use. It does have a handle, and while it looks like it would be waterproof, it's not rated for being out in the elements, though it has that nice look. It does have a clock. The clock will lose its setting if you switch over to AA's and there are no AA's in the back. So once you lose the power source, the clock just resets to 0. There's no retaining of any memory. Other than those shortfalls, and the worst of which is the antenna for me, the radio's okay. I wish the tuner was stronger, but I wish the same thing for this. So from what I've seen, they don't put great tuners in these units, which is a shame because that's what you're relying on, is the tuner to pick up the signal. But within your given area, you should at least be able to pick up NOAA and some of your local stations. And that's what you really want. You want to be able to just stay in contact when everything else is out. And if there's no power, the ability to go with solar or dynamo is great on either radio. But the real advantage is the fact that you can get NOAA weather and disaster reports. With the radio on the windowsill, the solar panel converts sun energy into electrical energy, charging the batteries. We get that indication here, and also with the red light. We know that the unit will charge with bright sunlight, but what about an overcast sky? Well, if we take a look, we see that the red LED is on, indicating that the unit is charging, and the battery indicator status is also flashing. So it will work with an overcast sky. If you found this video interesting or useful, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, join the subscription team, and as always, thank you ever so much for watching.